Compared to my siblings, I am an extremely rebellious person. Compared to the rest of America's youth, I am a goody two-shoes. But one Friday night, four of my buddies and I decided to put that reality to the test. It was the late 90s. We were bored on a Friday night, but we were pretty good kids. I was a pretty good kid. But we had the influence of movies like Ace Ventura and Tommy Boy and Billy Madison going through our minds at the time. And in Billy Madison, there's this great, just cinematic masterpiece of a moment where they take dog poop, put it into a paper lunch sack, put it on their enemy's doorstep, light it on fire, run away, hide behind a bush, and laugh as the guy comes out and stomps it and then gets dog shit all over everywhere trying to put out the fire. So as a bunch of bored 17-year-olds, we go, we should do that tonight. So we do. We go in my buddy's backyard, we fill a bag full of dog poop, and we think, who should we put this on their doorstep? And we think, oh, I know, our friend David. Now, for the purposes of the story, we're gonna call him David because his name was David. But for some reason, we chose our friend. And so we go and we actually go through it. And I'm up there and I light the bag on fire. There's 5 of us total. And we run across the street. And as soon as I start leaving the doorstep, I realize, what have I done? My brain goes immediately to, there's nobody home. The bag is gonna light into a huge fire. It's gonna catch the house on fire. Everyone's gonna be in there. In fact, maybe they are home and they were just downstairs and they didn't hear the knock on the door and they're all gonna die. And so we left before we saw what happened. But just that tiny bit of rebellion felt like kind of good to us. So we're like, what's the next step? Oh yeah, egging houses. That's a thing people do. So we're like, all right, we go to the Super One up on the South Hill, and we buy one of those, I don't even know if they sell them anymore, a gigantic pallet of eggs that no one has any business buying unless you're the fry cook at Frank's Diner. We're talking so many eggs. But again, we're good kids and we're wusses. So we just pull into some random neighborhood and we're like, whose house are we gonna throw eggs at? We don't know. So we just pick one that's way down the street and we just start lobbing eggs. And I'm guarantee you 90% of them don't even hit the house. They just hit the street, maybe land in the front yard. And we just go through this whole pallet just randomly. We don't want to get caught. Our fear of getting caught far outweighs our rebellious, we're trying to do any damage. But we're still feeling pretty good about ourselves. We're out there, we're living life. We're being rebellious. We're doing what we need to do to have a good night. So we go through, 48, 62, however many eggs it was, with, again, zero evidence that we did any damage to anything. So we get back in the car and we're like, what next? And we're like, I don't know, that was probably good. Let's go play some Nintendo 64 and call it a night. So that's what we do. So we're driving, my buddy John is driving, and we're driving back to his house. And we pull around this corner, and one of my friends in our little car, a little 89 Honda Accord, goes, hey, look. And we points over to this house, and we see this girl climbing out of her bedroom window, hanging a few feet above, dropping out. And this isn't just any girl, this is Courtney. Courtney's real cute. We all knew who Courtney was. So she drops down, and we're like, dude, she's sneaking out of our house. So my buddy lays on the horn. We roll the windows down, and we're like, Courtney, you busted! And she does what any 15-year-old girl sneaking out of her house would do. She turns to our car and gives us the double bird. And we think in that moment, how dare she? She has offended us. She has affronted us. So we think, she deserves what's about to happen. So we have no idea where Courtney went. She probably snuck off with someone. But we think we're gonna go and get some more eggs and get her back for the punishment that she just gave us by flipping us off. So we go to the local Zip Trip. A couple of my buddies get out of the car, they go into the Zip Trip. They're just in there a couple minutes, they come back, 2 dozen eggs. They're like, yeah, that's fine. But by this time, we are such seasoned vets at rebellion and vandalism. We are feeling so good about ourselves. So we pull back in front of Courtney's house, And we just leave the car running. We open the doors. We're not afraid anymore. We're not hucking these like 50 yards away at random houses. We have our target. And we are doing target practice. We're like daring each other, like, hit the upper left window. And like, we all go for that. They're like, hit the like over here. And we all go for that. And we're just laughing and having a good time. Then all of a sudden we see that her dad and her older brother, who was a star linebacker at Ferris High School, are sprinting at us as fast as they can with an equal mix of anger, determination, and glee in their eyes. And we just like say a bunch of 4-letter words and we hop in the car and we slam the door closed. And they are so close, they like are pounding on the door. They're like pounding on the windows and we squeal away and we get out of there and we're like up 2 blocks away and we're like, oh my gosh, like the adrenaline is going, everything's going, but we're safe. We're good, we got away. And then John, who's driving, and again, we'll call him John because his name is John. He says one of those 4-letter words and he goes, they're coming after us. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, they're both coming after us. The dad and the older senior linebacker got in separate cars and started peeling after us through the neighborhood. Now, this part I've been proud of everything up until this point. That's part I'm not. We say go, and we are tearing through the neighborhood. You might be like, oh, you thought you were going fast. You were probably just going like 30, 35. I kid you not. We lost 2 hubcaps that night driving around the neighborhood. We're taking corners this way. We're taking corners that way. We're going like all the way on the other side of this, like the neighborhood. We even do that thing twice because there's a lot of cul-de-sacs in this neighborhood. And one time we took a wrong turn into a cul-de-sac. We're like, oh no, what do we do? And we're like, I go, pull into that driveway, turn off the lights and everyone duck. Again, I am not being hyperbolic. We do that, we duck down, the 2 cars swoop the cul-de-sac and they just think that we're a random car parked in the driveway for the night. And they swoop back out. Eventually, we're like, I don't think they're chasing us anymore. So we all go back to my buddy's house. I don't think we say a word to each other at this point. We get back into our respective cars and we go home. And again, I was a good kid. I was so afraid of like getting in trouble. I was at my dad's house that weekend. I remember going up, my bedroom was on the 2nd floor. I remember like closing the blinds and like for an hour, I just like peeked. Like, any cop cars coming? Any cop cars coming? Finally, I realized I was probably good to go. Went to bed. Honestly, for the next 3, 4, 5 days, no repercussions. Most of my other buddies went to Ferris. I went to Lewis and Clark. Didn't really hear a thing about it. Then one day, I'm sleeping. It's early in the morning, maybe 6:30, and there's a knock on my bedroom door, and my mom knocks on my door, and she goes, hey, Seth's on the phone. I'm like, that's weird. Seth's on the phone. So I get up all groggy and I go, hello? And then he says 3 words I'll never forget. He just says, dude, we're busted. And click. He hangs up on me. But I'm not gonna say a word to anyone about this. I'm not gonna, like, if my mom was like, why did Seth call? I'd be like, he needed help with math. I don't know. I don't tell a soul about our high-speed chase. So again, the next 4 or 5 days, I don't hear a thing. I'm like, actually, we're probably fine. Maybe Seth got busted and I'm in the clear. Until one night, probably a Friday night, I remember we had a baseball game. I played baseball, got home, I hung out with my girlfriend, and I made it home by curfew, like I always do, because I'm a good kid. Open the garage door opens, and I see that little like sliver of light underneath the door. And I'm like, that light's never on. And I immediately know, dude, I'm busted. And I open the door, and my mom is sitting on the couch in her bathrobe. She's not watching TV, she's not reading, she's just waiting for me. So somehow word got back to her. And by somehow, I mean this. Turns out the dad, Courtney's dad, the recipient of the egg barrage, had some detective skills, because it turned out he was a detective. A few days after the incident, I think he was just driving home and he found some egg cartons on the side of the road near his home. He thought, He's pulled over, got the egg cartons, looked at them, and saw the Zip Trip sticker on the egg cartons and thought, He went to the local Zip Trip and said, "Hey, I'm Detective so-and-so. Do you mind if I see the security camera footage from Friday, May 12th between 11 and 12? And they're like, sure. Sure enough, he sees two 16-year-old jackasses buying eggs at 11:30 at night. My buddy Seth and my buddy Josh. He has those pictures printed and proceeds to go around to all the local high schools and hangouts, talking to staff, vice principals, counselors, and being like, "Do you recognize these boys? Do you recognize these boys?" Turns out someone recognized those boys. And it was Seth that was recognized of the dude we're busted. So we were busted. I guess now that I'm a 43-year-old mature man of integrity, I realize, it was probably fair, but at the time it was the most unfair thing in the world that they wanted us to pay them to have their house and one of the cars repainted, the front of the house. Apparently eggs do a lot of damage. Things you learn. So my mother, being a woman of integrity, said that I would be doing my fifth of the cost. There were 5 of us. And not only that, but I was then required to go up to the door and hand them the check and apologize. So I still remember the short drive walk by. I think I might have rode my bike over there and just trembling as I walk up to the door. And I knock on the door and I'm saying, "Hey, I'm Brad. I'm really sorry. Here's a check." And he was so nice. And he was understanding. And he just goes, "Brad, you're a good kid."